I forgot that Zach is actually on vacation and will not be back until the end of the week, and so um, I'm pushing for having him and Park on the show a week from Wednesday, and doing a program on the data that Park shared this weekend
Cool. That'll be really
for
good.
the masses. Yes,
That would be really interesting.
yeah, it's going to be a good one for sure. It's time to unleash the beast.
Go beast mode.
Yes, but I'm
Awesome.
pretty surprised that Park's the only one. And for those of you listeners out there that don't know already, when I say Park, I mean Robert Park. When Park is the only person that has responded to our offer to have the candidates come on the show. So
No way.
it sucks to be them, man. That's all I got to say.
Well, when they have a distinct disadvantage because they didn't want to be transparent and discuss in front of everybody, they can't blame anybody but themselves.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say that because they're going to get that anyways on the 23rd. All you brothers out there who are
Here we
wanting to
go.
know, there's going to be a recorded um, candidate forum for the MWSA joint MWSA 14 and 64 in the Dallas area, which is going to be a great forum.
It will be.
And I'm going to try to get up there. That's that's when I'm headed up to Washington. So I'm going to try to stop there on the way, and then shoot up to Washington to do those presentations, and then come back into New Mexico, and then come home.
Well, when you're running for a state level position, you should still take any advantage you can to make yourself known and communicate. But it is what it is.
Right.
I was thinking today. Um, it's a story, and I'll tell everybody where I'm going with this. But it was a story that I heard several years ago, and you had the way it goes, and I'm going to butcher it because it's been a long time. But you had a newly raised master mason, and he attended several stated meetings after he was raised, and then 1 month came up, and for some reason, he couldn't make the meeting. So he sent his regards. He apologized. He just couldn't be there. And of course, people reached out to him after and checked in on him and everything, like a good lodge should. And then the next month came, and he thought to himself, well, it wasn't a huge deal. I didn't go last time. Maybe I'll just skip this time too. So he didn't really give a reason. He just didn't go. The third month came around, and it was time for lodge again. It's always easier to stay home than it is to go out. Let's be honest. And so he's like, you know what? It wasn't a big deal the last two times. I think I'll just set this one out too. So he set out the third meeting. And the next evening, he was sitting there, and this is like an old story. So he had a fireplace going, and it was cold outside, and he heard a knock at his door. So he opened the door, and it was his worshipful master, and his heart just sunk because he knew he was gonna get an earful about how he's not coming to lodge and upholding expectations and things like that. And so he invited the worshipful master in, and they went and sat down by the fireplace. No one ever said a word. Right? The master mason, he was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the
Yeah,
worshipful
you're
master,
butchering the story. Oh, go
but
ahead.
the
You
worshipful
go.
master never said anything. He just sat down with them, and they sat there quietly for a few minutes. And eventually, the worshipful master, he reached over and he grabbed some tongs, and he picked a piece of amber out of the fireplace and set it there on the stone on the stone mantle. And they both just sat there and watched this amber as it slowly cooled and just turned black. And without a word, the worship master got up and grabbed his hat and his coat, and he left. And no words were exchanged during this entire incident. However, the message was clear, and the idea is that as Masons, if we are not participating, if we are not engaged, that fire goes out. We have to be among other like-minded people, other brothers, to really stay motivated and stay inspired, and to really grow as Masons. And the reason I was thinking of this story, and if I butchered it, tell me the correct one here in a little bit, Dennis, because I'm going to talk to my lodge about this next meeting. And the reason I'm thinking about this is because we recently had a master's degree at one of my lodges, and the Knights of Mecca came and conferred, and it was really exciting to see the lodge so full. But I was looking around, and I realized that the Knights were there, and we had several brothers from outside the district and things like this. However, there was only one brother that I saw in the entire lodge that was from another lodge in our district. And he's a dual member, so he's also a member of... Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Dennis is just a hater.
Somebody loves you.
But anyway...
Somebody loves you.
But this guy he's also a dual member. So he's a member of outside the lodge, but he's also a member of the lodge. And I was thinking about that today. I was reflecting on it, as well as the stuff that happened yesterday. But I was thinking about this, and I realized that no one from our lodge goes to anything in the district. If you see where I'm going. So if there's a degree in the district, like I'll go, but you won't see anyone else really, anywhere else in the district. And I know as Masons, and this is something that Robert spoke on before several months ago at the MWSA. As Masons, we should always assume the best out of our brothers. However, we're also human, and when as a lodge, if I never see anyone from another lodge come and support the things that we're doing, it's just human nature. Over time, you're going to see less and less support going. It's not going to reciprocate, if that makes sense. And so, what I want to bring up is, as a lodge, we will be like that ember, and we will die out if we are not active in our district. If we're not helping out other lodges, and that will reciprocate over time. But it's really unfortunate to see such a well-attended event with so much excitement, and there being hardly anybody from your own district in there. And this is like we sent information out to the district instructor, and he emailed everybody in the district. Everybody knew about it. And so, but I don't blame anybody. This is not a blame thing. It's more like I want to bring up to my lodge, we have to step up. We are growing. We're doing great things at our lodge. However, if we are not active participants in our own district, we could only go so far. It's just like in life. You can only go so far on your own. You have to find your tribe. You have to get with your people and work together towards a goal.
Well, there's other districts that suffer the same thing. In fact, it's not an uncommon thing in lodges, especially in Texas, from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that in several lodges that I've been a part of, and there are a few people that travel, but it's the same people, and they're traveling to just certain lodges, and it's not really I don't know. There used to be a time when we used to travel all over.
Yeah.
And now it's just a couple of people that travel to certain lodges, and then it just kind of peters out right there, because then most of them have joined those other lodges, and they're just part of those lodges now. Now it's not a matter of supporting each other. It's a matter of they're just members of that lodge now. So why would anybody come to this other lodge if they can see them there every month? There's no need to go back and forth. That's one of the disadvantages, I think, of multiple lodges. And I'm not, lowbrowing anybody by any means because I'm a member of multiple lodges. And while I don't think it's ideal, it happens. It happens. Anytime I get involved with a lodge and plan to, assist, then I want to have a vested interest to show them that I have a vested interest, right? Even though it's not always the best, it's not always the best investment of my resources to do that. Sometimes it's just better to visit and be that guy that comes around and helps when I can. But we see that often, and once people become familiar, then it's no longer a support thing. It's more of just they're part of the atmosphere now. You're just part of it at that point.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then you also see, like you're saying, where lodges just don't visit each other, and I'm witnessing that right now in in another area in Texas, and it's just really a shame.
It is,
especially when these lodges are so much closer. I mean, you can get from one end of the district to the other in half the time it takes to get from Goliad to the other end of the district in 36.
Is your district multiple counties, or is it just a really big county?
36 is multiple counties.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this other one is one city. It's like, come on, guys. You're talking about a couple of extra street lights, and you're there. It's not even heavy traffic. It's just a little bit of traffic. It's not even heavy traffic.
Yeah.
I get just as much traffic traveling through Goliad, to be honest with
you. I just think of like when you, if you think of like, maybe not the best example, but if you think of like old villages that are really small, and for whatever reason there's no commerce or movement between these villages, you end up with like these weird people that are like have these strange cultures, and they're kind of maybe married their cousins too many times and things like that. And that's just, it's
hey,
very.
Don't you be talking about Goliad like that.
But it's similar when you have these lodges, and it's you go there and they have these weird practices, and the reason that they do that is because they never travel anywhere and see how other lodges do it. I guess what made me think about this was a point in one of my talk yesterday where I expressed the importance of getting out and traveling and seeing how other lodges do things and bring the best practices back. But I was like, some lodges don't ever do that. They don't ever bring back best practices or bad practices. They just get creative, and over time they just assume that's how it's always done, and then you end up with weird things. So it's important. Right. It's important to travel and support other lodges.
Well, it's also how things get lost over time, because you have one guy with the bright idea, and it's one of the points that I brought up, that one guy that has the bright idea that this isn't so important in the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a bunch of BS. Everything's important in the ritual. But this guy decided at some point that, why are we doing this? Why don't we just take this out of the ritual? Let's shorten things up, and there's too much formality, whatever the reason, but insert reason here. But some guy has some bright idea that this little incy-bincy part was insignificant in his mind.
Yeah.
Whereas that one little word could completely change the entire point of reference for the entire trajectory of that degree. Yeah. And that one little word is taken out, and then, it just creates just a bunch of meaningless garbage that people are regurgitating.
Yeah. Well, it's to that point, there was a specific part of one of the degrees that I think it was me and Cody were talking about it. Yeah. But
Yes,
that's exactly right. But we were talking about it, and he was asking.
that's exactly right, Scott.
He was asking if I had to learn it when I was doing my memory work, and I was like, yeah, I had to learn that. But it turns out it's not part of that. It's just something that was perpetrated regionally, like 30 years ago, here in this part of Texas, and it's just been continued. And so when people hear about it in the forum, and it's like you don't say that there. People are just like, well, that's not how I learned it. But it's the same. But it's the same thing. Yeah. But even some things as simple as there's some people that like to put commas at certain parts, or I don't know if
There's
I mentioned
parts
it.
that require commas
There are parts that
people
require
don't
commas,
put.
but they also like to add
That
them,
people don't put.
and they think they're being edgy and creative, but really they're changing the entire meaning of what that's kind of trying to communicate. And it's the same concept, like what you're talking about. But I don't know.
I
Maybe
think
I'm on a
some
high
people are
horse.
too choppy with their work too. I mean it, and yeah, you're right. We're getting a little too, we're starting to sound like those food critics that just like to eat food and don't really know much about it. They just pile anything in their mouth and call it a dive-in roadshow or
There you
whatever.
go. There you go.
Well, you know what the difference is between a ritualist and a terrorist, right?
What?
No.
You can negotiate with the terrorist.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Try to remember that.
Nice.
In fact, my one of the lodges I've been to, the worship master likes to make some kind of a joke, and usually I don't like it. It's usually not that good of a joke, but I'm gonna have to make sure and give him that one to give at the beginning of
Yeah, that's funny.
that's a good one. Which and I'm gonna say, that point that you brought up in the comments, Scott. Um, it's Robert Park and I were sitting having drinks after our deal yesterday, and we started talking about ritual, and he said, "So what do you think about that?" And I said, "Huh, it's interesting that you should ask because it is correctly done as the U word and not the two words, right?"
Hmm.
And I said, in all reality, if we're talking about a different language, which is like what Cody Stewart was talking about yesterday,
Yeah.
that we learned this different language, and there's a reason why certain things don't sound like they they uh they we would think that they would sound like, because it's not in today's language. So, but that was the true meaning, because it has a different meaning than those two words separate.
What's
They're
interesting,
similar. They can almost be similar in meaning, but really, when you break them down individually, they are completely a different thought in the ritual.
Well, certain dialects have died out over the years, and certain words that we don't use anymore. You can clearly see that in ours. Even if you look at the exposés from uh, oh, even before Washington's time, or a little bit before then, certain phrases in there are worded differently than we have today, and most of what we have today is similar to what we've had in the 19th century.
Yes.
So I mean, it evolves.
well, I can't find it, but what's interesting about that word you're saying is it does appear in the back of one of the official books.
Thank you, Right Worshipful. I appreciate your confirming that. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's right, Cody. Very good. I like that.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it actually appears in the back of either, I don't know if it's the most recent monitor, but I've seen it either in a monitor or another of our books, and it's, why would it be there if it's not the original intent?
Right.
Like it's so random. Why would it be there?
The reason it's not there now is because we've had some cows in the past that that are only able to shuffle one direction down one trail, and they couldn't. And if anybody has ever been around cattle, they know how cows are.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a big wide open field, and they're not going to travel just randomly through this field. There's one little trail you're going to see, like an ant trail, going through the pasture where all the cattle walk, and that's what they're going to do. And there's one cow back then that would just say "cuz." That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz. It's like, you know what? That's not okay with me. That's not a good enough reason. If you're gonna give me a reason, at least give me something that's intellectually sound and not cuz.
Yeah. Well, also keep in mind, if you go with if you keep it how we have it now, which is the commonly accepted, it perpetuates a concept.
Yes.
That it perpetuates this cheap mentality, because we come in that way, and so we should not expect much out of anybody.
Right.
Yeah, Cody. So, but no, anytime you can, and it comes from like it's the same mentality like my grandparents had. It's that if you're wealthy, if you have a lot, that's almost sinful. Like to be too successful is almost sinful. And you see a lot of this same mentality where like, whoa, we don't want to have a lot of money or anything in the fraternity. That's just silly.
Well, now there is a certain, and I'll tell you, I love, if none of our listeners, if none of our brothers out there do it, I recommend that you listen to the lectures of Manly P. Hall on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. There's a bunch of them. When he is like 80, 86, 80, 85 to nearing the end of his age, he started doing these lectures, or he probably did them from time immemorial. The way he liked to talk, he talked more than me, but he was giving these lectures as he was older. And so there's this one that I was listening to here recently, that he was talking about the reality that, you know, when the reason why we don't want to, our goals might not want to be the richest man on the CEO or the richest man out there, is because the richest man doesn't care about anyone else. He only cares about him and himself being the richest man. And he's going to do everything that it takes to continue that on once he gets to that point. Whereas you can be, you know, pretty wealthy or whatever, and care about people and take care of people. Whereas the richest man is going to take care of his company. And there's a difference in how people look at other human beings once you get to a certain level. And I have to agree. Let's look at the state that we're in today. Look at our Congress, look at our Senate, look at our state representatives. You know, they're all in the pockets of the richest people, and the only people that those rich people care about are they're furthering their wealth. And it's not about helping. They say it's under the guise of employing all these people, but I'm going to tell you that I work for one of the largest companies, you know, in America, and that company is actively trying to trim the fat constantly on the workforce, and it's not about helping those employees. It's all about helping their bottom line and their bonuses, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are making money while all the pensions are being lowered and all the 401k benefits that the company offers is stagnant and has been for the last 15 years. So, there's proof in the pudding as to what he's saying in that there comes a point where the wealthiest are only interested in serving the wealthy, and they're not interested in serving man. And so, while that's fine and dandy, we only have this one life that we live. I refuse to say it in a way that it sounds like a soap opera. We only have this one life that we live. I think about that all the time. But if to be a good Mason, it's very difficult to live that life and be a Mason.
Yeah.
Because our goal is for the betterment of mankind.
Yeah. You only have one life to live, unless you end up in a general hospital. That's just how the days of our lives go.
Daniel, I like what you have to say.
Like sands in the hourglass.
I don't like what your cohort has to say. Cohort.
Wow.
Yeah, that went. I should not have opened that door.
But you make very valid points. Those are good points.
Yes,
most definitely.
Yeah, it usually only works out for the rich and the beautiful and the young and the restless. The rest of them,
Oh, we've already moved on. What are you talking about? Your timing's awful.
I know. I missed that boat. Yeah, that was awkward. That's funny.
But what about everybody?
Man, I feel old.
What about everybody here in the inner circle? I mean, me and Dennis have been monologuing, but what are y'all's thoughts on things? What's going through y'all's mind this evening? Besides soap operas.
I'm just waiting to see what hell awaits me tomorrow at work, so I'm staying quiet.
Got you. Daniel, you got any thoughts on yesterday or anything?
Yeah, Cody and I were just, I think, right before we started going, right? It's a lot to think about. So for those that didn't attend, if y'all don't mind, I'll just give them a quick summary, right? Justin, you talked about,
but keep in mind we don't want to go in too much detail on the presentation themselves. Okay, all right.
Yeah, just right to the initiation, right? Cody talked about the first degree in Masonry, and then Dennis, you talked a lot more too, right? I'm guys, I'm just like still like my head is spinning from it, right? It was so much good information, and
I definitely talked a lot more too.
I'm sorry, Jess. It was impactful, but it was also toward the end, right?
I must have put everybody to sleep.
No, it was a good day. It was a really good day. It was a lot of information, but man, like I walked out feeling completely energized, completely like, man, I want to do this. This is my Masonry, right? For me, that was that, and I was kind of bummed I didn't get more people from my lodge up there, but it was great to see people there. It was practically standing room only when we started, and it was really neat. It was a neat experience to be in a room with a bunch of people who lots of heads nodding, right? Like, yeah, this is right. This is what we should be doing, and thinking about, it's the accumulation of thoughts for me of kind of what you guys have been talking about for quite some time. Is, are we doing what's right in Masonry first and foremost, right? Are we doing what we should be doing, which is valuing what this experience is, having an opportunity to slow down and say, this should be an experience. It should be worthwhile. You should have some skin in the game. You should be willing to do more than just sit there and receive something and eat a chili dog on a paper plate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make it something special, make it something unique, because that's what it should be.
Agreed.
And that's the magic right there, is that if we slow down, make it something special, then our candidates are going to receive it as special,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're going to in turn do the exact same thing. It's going to, we take our internal and put it out there externally so that they can receive it internally, and then do the same thing. It's all cyclical, and as we do that, then it just gets better and better, and we keep enhancing each other's time, and the value the value just comes. We don't even have to try to create value at that point. It just happens because it's already built into what we have to offer as Masons.
You said a word that I think is very important, and that is perception. Perception is 99.9% of everything. And so when you have things at the lodge that your brothers may think this is mundane, this is not a big deal. If we change our mindset and say this is a big deal, and if we present it like it's a big deal, then these new brothers, when they come in, they will perceive it almost immediately, like, oh, this is a big deal. And likewise, if we start raising it up and lifting it up like it is something important, even people that have maybe already experienced it and it appeared mundane when they encountered it, they too will start to feel like this is something a big deal. This is something that maybe my perception was wrong. Maybe this is more important than I thought. And so you're absolutely right. If we treat everything like it's mundane, it's just a formality that we have to go through to get you to master and start getting dues, then absolutely. And it will all be treated mundane. And then when they start showing up to stated meetings and they're just business meetings, they'll get bored because everything has been mundane up to that point. They'll stay home, not eat chili dogs on paper plates. Why waste my time for that? But if we just start picking just one thing, it could be a part of the degree process or just something we do on meeting nights or something like this, and just start lifting it up. Start looking at best practices, and if we can't find any, let's just find a way, maybe from our own experiences, that someone somewhere else did something like this that made it feel really important, and start doing that at our own lodge, and start making it a bigger deal.
I would like to think that even if the only thing we focused on as far as the our most important thing, even if we only focused on the ritual being the utmost important, right? And we still had our regular business meetings as business meetings, what have you. But that would give people something to look forward to when it comes ritual time, right? Everybody would want to be involved. Everybody would want to enhance that experience. Everybody would want to, and even with the opening and the closing ceremonies, like you do at St. Albans, it's special.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can have just a regular old business meeting, but just doing that ritual in a more meaningful way, opening and closing, makes it a special event. And so I think that while not everyone is going to enjoy every experience that everyone else is going to enjoy,
mm-hmm.
And you have to know the culture of the lodge, but I do think that if we at least got together and all made sure that our ritualistic experience was more meaningful and the brothers understood what we were a part of and really understood what we were a part of, then it would enhance the experience as a whole. And then whatever the lodge culture is from that point on is whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the lodge is going to flourish, whether it's all about just a plain Jane business meeting and going home, or if it's all about education. The lodge is going to flourish because they're going to be excited about those ritualistic experiences, and they're going to still be excited about their Freemasonry, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it is all about the experience, and and it depends on what the lodge wants in that experience as a culture.
Yeah.
But the one thing we should, without apologies, be serious about and solemn about and intentional about is our ritual.
Agreed. I think
And I'm looking right at you, brother Cody Stewart, as I say that because I love you like that.
I think a best practices lodge, as Brother Norman would like to word it, I think those will largely look very identical. However, I'm talking about best practices, like you've adopted, like many numerous best practices and have been working on that over time. However, like you said, every lodge is different. Where one lodge wants to start is not necessarily going to be where another lodge needs to start. However, the important thing is you're starting somewhere. You're starting
Oh
somewhere.
yeah. It's something to build up to because it takes time to engage all those different.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Brad Hoff
Nice
is in
picture.
the house. Yes.
I knew when
I
he took
told
that
him-
picture of my lodge, I was going to turn up somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it. I've
Oh, you
got
did?
it. Guess who was the first one to get it? Man, I almost put little curls on the side of your head right here.
Oh, wow.
I
Don't
love
hate on my
that
top
picture.
hat.
Baby boy.
How y'all doing, brothers? Good to see you.
Not as
I
good
just
as I
got off
was a
the-
minute ago, but I'm still
I just
doing
got off the road.
That just made my day. Oh my gosh. So funny.
Wow.
For those of you who do not know, that is Justin Jones's picture from when he was a master of his lodge.
That was back in 2012.
When you were 12,
Yeah,
that's what
basically.
it looks. That's what it looks like.
What was I, like 29? Yeah, I think something like that.
Man. You look like you just went through puberty. Oh man, that's funny. That's
Nice.
so funny.
I was
But-
determined not to wear a cowboy hat that year.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's good. You did good. So, Brother Hoff, we were talking about how you did a great job with this event, and we're all proud of what you did, and we can't wait to see it happen again next year. And we were even talking about it. It might be a good idea for your lodge to hold you over 1 year as master for a second year, just to try and keep things going in the direction, give you an opportunity to build upon what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was already kind of in the works.
Good.
No,
Good.
Yeah,
Why would you kick a
Nice.
good leader out?
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd almost be like our little experiment, right?
Yeah.
All of us Masonic improvement guys, the inner circle, have been through this with you the whole time, and seeing if what we discuss is meaningful enough to really make a difference in a lodge.
yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I really had a really good time yesterday. I thought you guys all did a wonderful job, and I thought everything went smoothly, and it was a really cool experience for me personally.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just had an observation because someone made a comment in one of the posts. I don't remember because all of us made different posts, but they were talking about how everything, like all the speakers, flowed so well. And I was thinking, well, yeah, we're all friends. It's easy to it's easy just to jump into things when you're all friends and you all have relationships. It's not. It really honestly, from my perspective, it felt kind of like what we do every Sunday. Just a little more
Right.
long-winded than usual, but it's
Yeah,
just us just talking.
right.
Well, I tell you what made me happiest, and I did put it in one of my posts, is it wasn't all the familiar faces that I saw, but it was all the unfamiliar faces that I saw.
That's
Because while we did have several brothers that we see all the time that we love and cherish as friends, true and trusted friends, there were a lot of brothers that I haven't met before.
Mhm.
And I really like that we were able to be a part of an event that brought so many brothers out of the woodwork to your lodge, and it really shows the importance of what this kind of a thing brings to our fraternity. Obviously, and it wasn't just the young guys either. There were a bunch of older guys there that were, looking to learn a little bit more than they knew yesterday, and that tells me something, that they care, that their masonry matters, and that really did touch me. I really do.
Yeah. And
Yep.
Go ahead.
We had lots of district instructors and district deputy grandmasters, and there was education officers there, which I feel like was important as well. And then, of course, our committee on work guy, Cody Stewart, and
Yes.
and there was grand officers there. I mean, it was pretty cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
That was another thing that Park and I were talking about last night, is how cool is it that we have a guy like Cody as one of our committee on work guys. I mean, there is only one Cody in the committee on work, and that's for a reason, because he's the best. And you don't find very many catechism guys that truly love and adore the meaning underneath the words, and so that's something special. And I can't wait until he's chairman, and then he should be chairman for the rest of time. Eternal.
We're very blessed to have Cody.
We need clones, and then we can have a full committee on work of Cody's.
Yes. Yes.
It will be the Cody's on work.
The Cody on work. Yeah.
Yes.
The Cody monitor.
That,
The Cody monitor. Yeah.
that would be the new
Yes.
the new stance. The new stance is know the code.
We could have
and it be code. It's spelled CODE with a long E. Know the code.
My wife's tackling at y'all.
We can clone a Cody for every district. Then we won't even need district instructors because we got Codys everywhere.
I'm glad she's listening, because we all know who teaches you your work.
Hey, I did make a comment publicly yesterday that there was that I didn't know because my wife hadn't gone over it with me recently.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's something to every forum. This is how my wife teaches me. I kid about that, but I think our dogs over the years have probably learned more rituals sitting on the couch with me than what I've taught anybody.
Does your dog look at you weird when you going over it and say something wrong? He just kind of raises his head and looks at you like,
This guy right here has heard me do the Fellowcraft ritual many times.
That's awesome.
Get him a petition.
Those
Right.
dogs look kind of like I gave Justin yesterday when I threw him under the bus by putting him in the E.
I was like, oh crap.
Hang on.
I was disappointed because we didn't go through the closing. I was really wanting him to be on the spot.
I think we're okay. I think it was all right.
Yeah, I think we did fine, Justin.
Did great. It was the best EA open that day.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I do want to point out something that I've been to. This is kind of it almost served as a proof of concept to me, because I've been to lodges where we had speakers, right, with pull a lot of people, but usually when you have numerous speakers, you're meeting at like a shrine, or you're renting a place, or something like this. And I think that's kind of a barrier to entry for some lodges. However, the proof of concept was there. You can bring people, enough speakers, to a lodge and make a day of it. And so someone made the comment that we should do this more often, more locally all across the state. And you can do it. It's proof of concept. You can do it. We have lots of great speakers here in the state. And the thing one of the things I always walk away with at the back of my mind when I go to these things, it's always the people that needed to see it the most are never going to be at these kind of things. But if you can make it more local, wider across the state, they might not travel an hour for a presentation. In fact, Cody had this on one of his posts where people wouldn't travel very far at all for a forum. But if it's close, if we can break these education sessions down where it's more decentralized, then I think we can really hit a lot more of the people that need to see these kind of things, because there is absolute value in the kind of talks that we had yesterday.
Well, we had talked about this, and I talked to Cody about it as well. And I think we ought to bring the lecturers back, and that would be a function of the lecturers is trying to do something like that in regional aspects, like the Committee on Work does with the work, and then it would be another resource for a Grand Lodge draw, because there's always a little bit of a Grand Lodge draw anytime you have someone from Grand Lodge come in, and it would also be kind of like the support that lodges would need to build an event around. Like you have the lecturer come in, and then you could have just one or two speakers extra, and then that creates half a day right there.
Yeah,
and that's a good amount of time to where you won't lose interest in you. And I mean, I think fortunately we were pretty efficient, and we had a nice break in between the ice cream and cake break, which I loved it.
That was very wise.
Yes, and so it broke up the monotony a little bit, and then let us get into the second half. But I think that the opportunity is there. We just have to have people reach out and ask for support in doing those kind of things.
Well, you bring up an excellent point, because if you have someone in a lodge and maybe they don't know who to reach out to, right? They know they can reach out and find a grand, like a lecturer. But the thing is, the lecturers will also, not only they have point of contact to start something, but they're also likely going to, from the fact that they give lectures at things like this, they're going to have contacts that they can reach out to. So if you say, hey, this is what I want to talk about at the theme of this thing I want to put together, then the lecturer will know right away, well, Dennis Yates can put together a great talk on this. Cody's great on stuff like this, yada 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 yada, and he could suggest 3 or 4 people to put together this thing.
And the lecturer would also be a resource to your district education officers. They wouldn't just do what the Briscoe and stuff like that on what the basics, the very basics of the education that Grand Lodge needs to perform. But they would also have that resource to help them to create other types of education for their districts. And so you would already have that. You would have your district education officer. You'd have your lecturer. That's 2 right there. And then you could always pull an education officer from your surrounding districts, the 2 closest to you. And then you've got 4 people right there that can speak. And give a day's program that could support 4 or 3 districts. You have one from each district going to one other district. That's 3, and then you have your lecturer supporting it. So you're touching 3 districts with one event.
Is that not part of the function of the DEO? I have seen many DEOs that have been just appointed just because the district deputy needed to appoint somebody, and they never did anything. And I'm sure that's not an isolated incident. And on paper, I'm sure that is a function. DEOs aren't trained or anything. However, they're very often completely oblivious to what their actual function is.
Due to the inconsistency of the program. I mean, we haven't had DEOs every year. We haven't had we've had DIs, but we haven't had DCOs every year either. And so neither one of those positions have really taken traction like they really deserve to. Nope. And I think you're right, Cody. That is their job, is to create educational opportunities for the district. But most of them don't know what that looks like. And most of them aren't equipped to do that because somebody was appointed just because they've been through the all program, the light program, or the all program, the Briscoe program, and then what is the other one? The Come on, help me out, guys.
All the Briscoe, the I don't know. I don't know where you go with it. All Briscoe.
I'm gonna be stuck on this until y'all go ahead and talk.
Yeah.
I'll figure it.
Yeah. But no, I mean I've known education officers who don't value education, and I've met DCOs that never communicate. So it's
Oh my gosh.
I
Yes.
agree on paper that should be part of the function. However, due to inconsistencies and a lack of like any kind of formalized instruction, I think that's a big issue. And also, if DEO and maybe even DCO, these are roles that really, if you replace it every year, you kind of lose your traction, I think. Once you get a DCO that knows how to communicate and does a good job of communicating things, he should probably be DCO for a while. And once you get an education officer that that values education and knows what he's doing and is able to put things together, he should be DEO for a while. I'm trying to read Daniel's comment here.
Yeah, I don't even know
I didn't know there was a handbook for it.
Oh, are you talking about? Well, no, I didn't know there was either.
There
That
was
must
a
be kinda-
PDF that I was given that gives a guideline for DCO.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
I think we had something like that, didn't we, Scott?
For district deputies?
I think they briefly explained that you have a DCO and a DEO, and this is what they should be doing or assisting you to do. But I don't remember getting any formal like
Right.
literature on this is what
Yeah.
they do.
We didn't get a lot of formal literature, but we
Hey,
got
but
a
it was
lot
still-
of instruction.
We still did a lot of stuff, and it was really good too.
We did. It was damn. And
Yeah.
but we had some of the greatest team building experiences out of any of the Grand Lodges that I know of. That's why we were so successful, because the DDGMs were so active in their Freemasonry.
I have
And-
never
and-
seen a batch of DDGMs that acts like a graduating class from high school. Like, y'all are so close. Like, yeah, DDGM 2022. You don't see that with any
everywhere
other
we
group.
go. I felt guilty yesterday because I was busy. Whenever we talk, we of course get people come up to us and want to talk about things. And so I was busy talking with somebody, and they wanted to get a 2022 picture, and I wasn't able to take the picture, and I just felt like a total asshole because I missed the picture. I missed the 2022 picture. And we always get one because we always support each other in our events.
There was
Yeah,
one
me-
yesterday. There was a 2022 photo op yesterday.
There was supposed to be, and I missed it.
Yeah, Jeff Frazier was trying to get something together, I think.
Yeah, Jeff wanted to do it, and David Ritter was there, and you were there. I was there. There were several of us there.
Yeah, me, Brad, and Dave got a picture together when we were at Waco Thursday night. We're like, oh, yeah, Dave's here. Come here. We got to get a picture together.
Yes.
Three of us.
Always.
And Justin, you're absolutely right. It is a lot like a graduating class. There were a lot of things that were done intentionally, and I think Right Worshipful Billings may have stumbled across some things not so intentionally that made that group something very different from any group before, and
Mhm.
likely different from any that we'll ever see in our lifetime. It was, and I think it all started with bringing everybody together in a single deputy training, and instead of having them scattered out throughout the state.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
made a big difference. That did. And then the way it was set up, too. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
it was a
Yeah,
retreat.
Yeah, and it wasn't this. I heard like the DDGMs that had training before, they were just saying that it was a whole lot of sit in the auditorium and read like stuff from a projector and like, okay, highlight this, do that, highlight that, highlight this. It wasn't like that for us.
Oh
That
no.
sounds
It
awful.
was completely different.
Oh yeah, we had a Jim Rumsey that gave us he gave us real, do you remember, does everybody remember when Jim used to do those Facebook posts that would question some part of the law and make people have to really think about it, and there was always a catch, there was always a loophole, and you really had to be sharp to catch that. Well,
Mhm.
that
Pandemic
was part
thoughts.
of, yes, that was part of our training. Was Jim was up there on the stage, and he would bring somebody up on the stage, and we would and put them to the test, and we would have to tell where that person was wrong, and we couldn't even get it. I mean, most of the time it was him just explaining it to us anyways, but the whole experience caused us to think. And
Nice.
that's, just like Cody was saying yesterday in our presentations, the most important thing is causing ourselves to think.
I'll say this, and no, I don't mean this as a slight in any way. However, a wise Grand Master would dissect the processes used for 2022 and do his best. Everyone's a different personality, right? So it's never going to be the same. But that's what a business would do. They say, okay, this worked really well. We have a certain kind of cohesion in a certain bond among these district deputies that is there is value in replicating that, because when your team is close, your year goes better.
Well, and I got to tell you, that's exactly why we're going to have to get everybody back to Grand Lodge this year. And everyone that's on this call or this show, everybody that's watching, you really need to get to Grand Lodge, and you need to get your other brothers from your lodge to Grand Lodge. You need to get everybody that back to Grand Lodge, because right now we have the potential for cohesion and synchronicity. We have the opportunity to actually not just excel but propel our fraternity this back into this generation to where we should be, you know into this millennial where we should be, because we have people that are trying to work together for the betterment of our fraternity, and not everybody just trying to do their own show. You have trustees that are working together right now to have a better experience and come up with solutions to support the lodges like we haven't had in quite some time. And we really have to make sure and get everybody there to make sure we continue this on, because there's certain people that are interested in that, and there's some certain people that are interested in stopping that, and we need to make sure that we keep going forward.
We have to show up with the same numbers we did last year, with the same mentality
That's
we
vital.
did last year.
That's vital.
And we'll have to do that for years to come, because as soon as you slip, that's when these little light tendrils will start to creep their way in. You have to be diligent against weeds in your garden before it gets overgrown.
Well, and I hate to use a fear factor kind of thing either. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. But I don't want it to sound like, we're fear mongrels or anything like that are trying to, put the fear of Jesus in you. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to tell you that, we've got something good. If you're enjoying this year, it was by design, and we need to keep working on it.
I think
We've got to keep working on it.
I think it's just being realistic, but I can see where you're coming from, right? You don't want to sound like you don't want to sound like you're overhyping the importance, but it is very important. And
Oh yeah,
I feel like I'm
absolutely.
just being realistic, but yeah, by the same token, if you think, well, that's a little dramatic, don't believe me, then show up. Just show up and see for yourself. Prove me wrong.
Right. Like I always say, prove me wrong. That's funny. That's how I started off yesterday, is that you can prove me wrong. I'm not gonna quote everything to you, but You can try to prove me wrong.
I will say I really did enjoy your overall presentation was good, but I really did enjoy the walking part of your presentation.
You like that?
I did. I didn't know what to expect, and
I left some parts out that I really wanted to put in that I just forgot, and I'm going to actually write it out a little better, um, for next time I do it. I'm giving it again in November in Port Lavaca.
Nice. Yeah, it's really good.
Actually, I need to talk to the brother up in Washington that's putting everything together. I may do that one up in Washington as well. I really enjoy that one. I think that's one that most people don't look at. That needs to be looked at.
Well, some of your stuff might be moot. You might say, "Why do we do this here?" And they're like, "We don't do that there. What are you talking about?" So you might
have you seen one of our degrees?
Yeah.
You Texans.
Are you clandestine?
Right. Well, in that situation, I just say, well, hey, in Texas, we do this, and I'm going to tell you why and why I think it's absurd. But I won't have a Cody to pick on there either, so it won't be as fun. But, Cody was a trooper, and he just rolled with it. And thank you so much for just not tearing me a new one right there in front of everybody, because I know it's easily done with me. I leave myself open to so much correction, but I appreciate you letting me just roll with my presentation.
There were way too many witnesses around, Dennis.
Yeah.
He was thinking about cutting both ends off your ham, though.
Yes. Note to self: make sure there are witnesses.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on yesterday? Let's see. Cody, Dennis,
I have
or Brad? No, Brad's here.
Lots of thoughts on yesterday, but I'm told that we need to save them for a future time.
I think we can give a hint as to what they are. If I think we can give a hint. We just don't want to take away all the content. Let's talk about that post that occurred today. That one that, and I'm surprised Brother Byron's not here, because he's one of the Inner Circle members. I'm surprised he's not here.
Mm-hmm.
But Cody, why don't you kick us off with that post?
I'm not going to have that real handy, Dennis. If you don't mind looking it up for me.
I'll pull it up real quick. So there was this post that let me get to one of the responses. It's easier to get there that way. There was a post today that said Sunday hot take. And this is by Brother Byron Upton. He's one of our Inner Circle members, and I'm surprised he's not here tonight. Freemasonry is no longer as influential to those outside of the organization because many of its members have been negatively influenced by things outside of the organization. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Cody, why don't you kick that off? Because we talked about all this as well individually, and we don't have to take a deep dive into what that presentation was about to talk about our thoughts that we had talked about to each other.
All right. Give me just a couple of minutes, Dennis, and I will.
Okay.
Well, I'll say something in the meantime.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I haven't responded yet because I've been kind of thinking about it. But I'll say this. You've been
waiting to see what everybody else is posting.
Yeah, just going to piggyback off that. No, we have fallen in this trap, and it's not just recent because we've made lots of changes in the past based off these perceived external viewpoints of what we perceive people think we are, right? So it's like no longer calling, like, it's not a temple now, it's a lodge, yada yada. There's all kinds of examples like this, but there's this idea that we have to be constantly making effort to advertise ourselves to people, and um, that I'll just be frank on these things. That is not effective. That's not an effective way. It's like the lodges that, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but the lodges that do like the $1,000 scholarships, that's not a bad thing in itself. But they're using it as a way to try to advertise themselves. You can get a lot of advertising out there for $1,000, and that is not the best way to do it. But also, it's just this mentality that we have to get out in front of people. But really, what we should be doing is we should be the advertisement for the fraternity. And when we talk about how we're not influential because
he heard his voice. We said his name 3 times and he pops up.
But whenever I totally lost my train of thought now. But we are also not engaged in these external things. So if we say we're not influential, how would you be influential when you are not in the positions to be influential anyway? We used to be. Well, look at Texas. Like the Republic of Texas, every government official was a Mason, right? So of course we were influential. But now we're not on many city councils. We're not on many like local committees or anything like that. And so that's to say we're not influential and feel like you're a victim, which a lot of people do. I'm not saying that anyone in the post or anyone did. Is kind of, well, of course, because no one's stepping up and getting involved in anything. If you want to be influential, you have to volunteer for these things. And I've said this before, in that if good men don't volunteer for these positions, then that just means the door is wide open for anyone that's not a good person to volunteer for these things. And you see this now at state and local government all across the state, all across the country, because the good men, for whatever reason, are no longer stepping up, and it just creates this void for corrupt people or people with self-motivation, like self-motivated reasons, mercenary motives to step up and do these things. And that's why we're in the position we are.
Well, and in every country around the world except for, us and, well, in the Grand Lodge of England, Freemasonry is totally different. And the people that are members of the lodges are influential people. They're affluent, they're influential, and it's a very serious way of life for them, because they are actually invested in their communities. Justin, you had me check out something today, and I did, and that past Grand Master is totally right. That they take their position in life and in their communities extremely seriously.
Mm-hmm.
There's, for instance, brothers, there's a lodge in one city that they pay like $450 a month in dues to their lodge. But their lodge also supports a private school for the underprivileged kids, 400 students, which is something we used to do. That's something that Masons used to do, was that kind of thing. But they still do that in other countries. And one of the cheapest lodges in Africa they were talking about was he said $60 a month in dues was the cheapest lodge that he knew of around the world. And he's traveled to 32 different countries and countless lodges. And he said he put like 430,000 miles on air miles in 1 year when he was Grand Master, and visited all these lodges trying to understand Masonry around the world. And it's, yeah, simple truths that we are no longer aspiring to be the people that we brag to everybody about when we tell them about Masonry.
And to
But I
piggyback,
think,
oh, go ahead.
well, I'll let you piggyback on it, but I want to roll back into what my original thought was on the influence as well.
Okay, I will be extremely cautious.
Take care, Scott.
One of the without giving up content from yesterday, I think one of the biggest things that resonated with me out of that entire program was that we try to market ourselves to the folks outside of our own four walls, to the detriment of those inside. In other words, we're putting more effort into recruitment, into marketing, than we are into taking care of our existing members. And
yes,
that to me is, if you look at it in a business sense, if I spend all my money trying to attract new customers, but I don't do anything to keep my existing customers on board, then I'm losing money hand over fist. You put that in a Masonic perspective, our customers, if you will, are our members. We, as lodges, and as a Grand Lodge too, have to give our individual members the value that compels them to pay their annual dues, to have their butts in the seats on meeting nights, to engage in our lodges, and to invest themselves in stuff going on around the state. If we're not going to do that, we have zero business trying to market to anybody outside of Masonry. Plain and simple.
yes, and to piggyback off that, and that's the point that I was wanting to get to prior, was that when we do that, we're taking care of the internal, and it'll fix everything else, right? If we feel good about what we're a part of, then everything else gets fixed. And it's a lot like, a factory, to where, if you take care of your employees, you put them first and you make them feel good about where they work, they're going to produce a lot more. And there's studies that have been done over this, and it's amazing how America seems to think that the almighty dollar fixes everything, when it's not. Most of it is all internal, and it's no different with our lodges. Isn't that what you would think?
I would also point out that if you have an environment where, say, you go to the lodge and your worshipful master is constantly complaining about who's not there. For one, it doesn't feel like he's appreciative about the people that are there, and it creates this negative, like you're talking, like Brad was talking yesterday about, the words you say create vibrations, right? And if you say negative things, if you come across negative, that affects everything. People, they take on that. If I start talking negatively, then people start thinking negatively also, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if you, instead of focusing on things that are beyond your control, the people that don't show up, that aren't there for whatever reason, that's beyond my control, right? And if there was a silver bullet to fix that, someone would have figured it out, and that'd spread like a wildfire, right? However, what you can control is your meeting. You can control the content of your meeting. You can control the vibe of your meeting. So to that point, if I focus on providing value to those people that show up and give them an enjoyable experience, even if it's like 5% of my total membership, if they are getting value out of coming, then they'll continue to come and they'll talk about it. And so people from other lodges may come, or people that you haven't seen for a while that are members of your lodge, they may start to come. But you have to start building that value. You can't expect people to come out of the woodwork that you haven't seen in years when there's no value being delivered.
Well, and again, if they're only going to come back if they hear about it from excited brothers that are excited about what's going on. And let's insert activity here, because we've identified that there's different things that attract different brothers to our fraternity. So whether it be fundraising or whatever the culture of your lodge is, unless you do that very well and create excitement within that activity, then that brother that hasn't been coming isn't going to hear from the brothers that he knows that are coming, right? So as we get excited about something, we tell people about it. We say, hey, come on back, we're doing this again, we're having a great time. You should see this new worshipful master. He's just taking on the world and just slaying it. That's simple facts. I mean, that's kind of how it works, and we are our best advertisement. You know, and that's beyond influence in our communities and stuff like that. But people notice a pep in your step when you're excited about something. Look at the absolute best marketing for a church. There's two things, in my opinion: brand new Christians that just got dunked, and then the children. When people see the excitement of children to go to church, they want to be a part of that church.
Yeah.
Because the youth is excited, then they know that's going to be a growing church. When somebody is first made a Christian, they're on cloud nine, and they tell everybody in the world about it. And those are your two best marketing things. I don't think it's any different with us either.
Yeah. When you talked, we were talking about dues earlier, and we talk a lot about dues on the show, but really we talk about it as like just covering the bare necessities of the lodge. But using these examples from these other lodges across the country, those high dues, not only did they allow you to cover the expenses of your lodge, you can have a nice building, but also what he pointed out on that show was the lodge is one of the first places that people go to when someone in the community needs something, right?
When there's a need.
When there's a need. Talk about being influential. Say the park needs some trees, or we want to get some new benches or something. Who do they talk to first? The lodge. Hey, such and such person, their husband just passed away, and they need some help. Who do they go to? The lodge. They go to the lodge. And so it allows us, higher dues, I guess is my point, puts us in a position where we can be more than just a fundraiser, right? And there's always guys that want to do that. If you're paying $400 a month, I don't know why you want to do fundraisers too, but that's on you. And I'm not saying $400 a month. I'm just saying if you want to raise dues significantly
I don't
higher,
think those guys do fundraisers.
No, I'm sure they don't.
They
joined the Lions Club or
something.
It wasn't, was it? But can you imagine? Look at your individual lodge and how many members you have. Granted, your endowments have to be through the roof, but look at your. If you're charging $100 a month, think of all the things you could do. I mean, beyond making your building.
I don't think they have endowments either. Those weren't mentioned either.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. I'm just saying from our perspective, where we're at. If you're charging $100 a month or $400 or even $50 a month, your endowments need to go up a lot, or people are going to jump on that.
You know what my favorite takeaway was of that program, and that Grand Master had talked about a program in Ohio that they have called, and I can't remember the date.
It's like the 1896 Club or something like that.
Yeah. So and it wasn't a lodge. I don't think it was. Well, was it a lodge? It was the Grand Lodge. It was the Grand Lodge, and they had an 1896 club, or he wanted to create an 1896 club. And I'm going to recommend we do this for the lodge. Mm-hmm. It's called the 1896 Club, and that's the year that it was founded or whatever. And to where it's totally it's totally optional for any brother, but you can give $18.96 per month to the Grand Lodge, and $8 of it goes to the library and museum or whatever, and then $10 goes towards the general fund for certain account and this other account. And so it's the brothers that are supporting the Grand Lodge instead of it being instead of looking for fundraisers and stuff like that.
Well,
so I think.
Can I interject? If I remember correctly, the majority of it, the lion's share of it, stayed with the lodge, but then a portion of it went to the Grand Lodge, and they used those funds to help out lodges that maybe they were getting in disrepair, or maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but it seemed like it was something like that. Like it was definitely made to benefit the lodges first and foremost, but also for those that just.
Well, no, a portion of it went to the lodge, yeah, that's what it was. The first $10 went to the lodge, and then the rest of it went to the Grand Lodge. Mm-hmm. And then that money was used for grants for or loans for other lodges to fix up their buildings and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and I think that it could be done on a lodge level. So Goliad was founded in 1852. And I think that if we could implement the 1852 club and just make it open to whatever brothers want to do it, $20 extra a month that goes to the lodge, and let's say half of it goes to the building fund, and then half of it go to charitable work and that's how I would divvy it up, is that and that would be the charitable fundraiser, get all the brothers to commit to that. Because if all of the members, and this is just separate from dues and all that kind of stuff. So could you imagine if even 30 members committed to that with your lodge, which is about what shows up to our normal meetings in Goliad, is about 30 members. If just those active members committed to doing the 1852 club, and of course I would say, just take 20. Don't worry about it being 1852. Just take 20. And so that would be $240 a year going towards it. If 30 people did that, then that would be 240 times 3, 70, $7,300 a year. $7,300 a year with 30 members.
And I'll tell you
$7,300 a year extra.
I'll tell you where that will really help is among your endowed members. If you can get them to commit to that,
that would help with any members.
Oh, definitely.
With any members. And that, you send that out instead of saying, "Oh, please give us at least per capita on your endowment." Instead of doing that, send the notice out to all the members, even the ones who don't live there anymore, which we have 80 something members. There's not a bunch, but we have enough. Send that to all of them, and think about if even half of those came back. That would just be.
That could be huge for a lot of lodges.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And who can't afford $20 a month? If you can't, don't go eat at Whataburger once a month.
But lodges have to really specify, like, hey, this does not replace your dues if you're paying dues.
Dude,
this is a separate thing.
I went to Taco Bueno today, and I miss Taco Bueno. That's something we don't have down here. I went to Taco Bueno today. I had a Bob, big old burrito, one bean burrito, and one tostada, and it cost me $14 and some change. One person, $14 and some change for one quick lunch. dude, I can afford $20 a month.
This would require.
If I'm willing to feed this beautiful bod that kind of food, I can afford to feed my lodge.
But it would require lodges to set up a way for brothers to do that, as opposed to bringing a check every month. Like there would have to be a PayPal setup or and I say but I mean that like lodges have to step into the modern age.
I say the square. Yeah, I say the square. Don't mess with that. Just make it to where it's a credit card.
The square, the one that's through Grandview, the one that's talking.
Well, you set up whatever you set up, and then Grandview can take the funds directly. But that wouldn't be for something like this. This would be an ongoing that you set up through whatever vendor it is. But I would say Square. You don't want to do it through PayPal or Venmo or anything that would exclude other people. Because most people that use those things would have a credit card of some sort or a debit card. So I would do it through something like that.
Gotcha.
But that would be me just because thinking from a logical standpoint. You know, Brad, I might show some compassion for you if you hadn't been hunting and fishing all day. Like I said, I'll be damned if I show up again to one of your events if you don't invite me fishing the next freaking day. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there now. I probably will not be there next year because he didn't invite me fishing today.
Dennis fish is weird. He like goes out to his shoulders in the water and does all this. He'd be out in the middle of a river and he's just hanging out there.
Dennis, I think you need to go back and listen to Bob Park's last talk. Not the one he gave yesterday, but the one time before last.
Right. I probably do. I could listen to all of his talks and benefit over and over again.
He's such a good speaker and very wise. Well, it's 10:30. Let's start wrapping it up. This was a good talk tonight. Does anyone have any final thoughts they'd like to share? Yes, sir.
So, I came on late because, sorry, I'm a hardcore Houston Texans fan, and they're playing right now. So I don't know if you can see it in the reflection on my glasses, but I've got the game on my PC, and I'm talking to you on the cell phone.
That's awesome.
And by the way, Texans are up 19-10. But to go back and address a couple other things that we've talked about tonight, or that y'all have talked about tonight that I've been listening to. First and foremost, that was such an awful soap opera pun. My God. It was so bad, Justin. I'm holding you responsible.
I was very disappointed, Dennis.
I know.
Most things are my fault, though. I'll take
I was disappointed in myself for setting you up.
But then we've got, a couple other things going back to last week. I did get to go by and talk to the archivist at the Texas Ranger Museum. And I got some really good ideas that on a subsequent broadcast, I'm very happy to share as far as preserving our lodge records. And more particularly, and I believe, Dennis, it was you that brought this up, that you have records dating back to the 1850s. Around the turn of the century, we run into issues with paper records because of the nature of the paper that was used. And I got some good ideas on how to kind of mitigate their deterioration. We can't stop
nice.
But we can mitigate it. And then as far as my comment on the Freemasons page about how so few current persons in leadership roles are not Masons, I feel it's partly due to a few different things. And unfortunately, apathy is one of them. There are so many people that really just don't give much of a thought to anything outside of their own personal lives and their own personal self-aggrandizement, if you will. And so much of that goes counter to the culture that we are creating and have created in Masonry for, these many hundreds of years. That's part of it in my thought.
I think there's also a generational aspect to it, where you look at you know, I'm a, I'm Gen X. You look at the boomers, you look at the generation previous, and you look at the generations that have followed. They've all had very different mindsets about how they're going to go about dealing with their daily lives, dealing with their societies in general. And in some ways, I feel like we have kind of missed the boat, especially with, the Gen Y, the millennial, and certainly the Gen Z. And I don't know how to address any of that, to tell you the honest truth, but I feel like we need to find a way to address it so that we can I hate to use the phrase increase our numbers, but I feel like we need to do something to make certain that Masonry remains relevant within our society in general, not just in specific areas, but in general. The idea that we take good men and make them better. That's the mantra that comes back a lot of times in any discussion about, what's a Mason and what do you guys do? And the second half of that question is the one that really, a lot of times it gives me problems, because I'm coming from a little bitty country lodge that doesn't do a whole lot. What do we do? We might give a scholarship or two or three, but they're not big. They're rarely going to be enough to cover even books. So I feel like, we have to look at what we're doing within the community, how we're staying visible within the community, how we're staying relevant within the community in order to see the greater numbers that we'd all like to enjoy. And that's all I've got tonight.
I think it's interesting that, one thing that was brought up very recently to me is that we were never meant to be a service club, or we were never meant to be a community service organization. We just weren't. We were Freemasons. That we just happened to have members that did great things that just happened to be Freemasons. It was never, the intention was never to actually be a service organization to the community. And I think you brought up an extremely valuable point right there when in your talk, because when people ask you, well, what do you do? Well, we're not supposed to tell them what we do inside the lodge. So what else are we going to come up with what do we do that somebody might deem worthy or valuable of our time and effort of what we do, spending our time, so that's valid. That's a hard question to answer, but at the same time, I'm thinking maybe we don't worry about that so much. The only reason we worry so much about membership now is because our infrastructure is so bloated, and it's hard for us to pay for it, especially when we aren't charging the amount in dues that we should be charging. One of the numbers that I brought up, I had mentioned before that Goliad, when we were founded, when we were chartered, our dues were like $10, and to equate that today would be like $800 and something a year, right? Well, I went back and I looked at when Oso Naval Lodge was chartered. It was chartered in 1942, and the dues were $45. And the same thing, it ended up equating to $869 per year in dues. So we're just not charging and I was talking to somebody about it, and I think that our issue was threefold. I think I was talking to Brad Hoff about this. I think what happened was number one, the Great Depression, and we stopped charging more in dues. We stopped raising dues at that point, and then we kept them artificially low. That was That was schism number one that happened that helped where we are today. Number two, then we had this great influx of membership. So we could get away with charging keeping it artificially low and only charging a fifth of the price because we had 10 times the members. So we were still coming out ahead. We were still making double what we were making before with because we had so many members. Yes. So we did have 3 times number. Actually, at our peak, it was 250,000 people. So that was 5 times our current membership that we had. So now number 3, which is the hard one to stomach. And I don't want to say this sounding like some, Bible Belt backwards guy that hates women or anything like that. But in the 60s and 70s, when the women hit the workforce, it cut our bring home in half because we no longer had to support a family with one paycheck. We could now divvy it up between 2. The government made a lot more taxes that way. And so then the benefits and everything started increasing. All that kind of happened all about the same time. And it's not anyone's fault, but we had that split to where the companies no longer had to pay us a decent wage to do the work that we were putting in. They were able to cut our pay in half, in essence, to get the work done because we had 2 workers in the family to support that household. And I think that if we were to consider that, if we were to add the amount that our spouse makes and double what we pay now, that would be a little bit closer to where we should be. So, take that equation out of it, and that would be a little bit closer to where we should be. But I think those are the 3 things that really affected our dues that kept them artificially low to where we're suffering. Because whereas we have the spouse to help our household, we don't have the spouse supporting our lodge. So we don't have that money going into the lodge that we're no longer getting from the member. That's my personal thought on our finances. But I think that in reality, if we charged dues accordingly and right-sized our infrastructure to where our membership is today and not where we would like for it to be someday, then we would probably be a lot better off. Because ultimately, some of these small lodges would shut down and have to move and consolidate with other lodges. And whereas we certainly don't want any of our members to lose their lodges, hopefully a different lodge would have members move over to your lodge.
And I agree with you, but I do want to make one point, where you were talking about how the monies that are earned by a 2-wage earner household, half of those monies don't support the lodge. Well,
Right.
While the money may not support, the support I get from my wife, and I will speak only for myself because I am blessed. I'm
Right.
absolutely blessed with an amazing wife. When, and especially, in this upcoming year, I'm going to have to spend a whole lot more time away from home and, potentially even some overnight trips here and there. And my wife is absolutely in support of me going and pursuing my Masonic goals and doing the tasks that have been laid in front of me.
Oh, yeah. And don't get me wrong.
I just want to make sure I put that out there.
Yes, and I know that. And I know that all of our wives are just freaking angels. We are fortunate. We are fortunate. Yeah, we are fortunate to have our wives to support us like they do. What my only meaning in that is that the same income isn't there to support the lodge. The same amount of money isn't there to support the lodge as it once was.
It's not concentrated in the single wager.
Right, exactly. That's all it is, and it has nothing to. Yeah, I didn't want anybody to take that wrong, and I'm glad that you pointed that out because I agree. If my wife wasn't as good as she is to me, or just love it that I'm not around, then it's a who knows the truth, but either way, I'll just keep calling her a saint and leave it at that.
Dennis, I would add one thing to your 3-item list about our dues. One, I think the fourth thing is, at the risk of sounding elitist, and I most certainly am not, but I think inclusion was a big part. I think it still plays a huge part in why our dues are held to such a low ceiling. And lodges are having a really hard time catching up with that. And that's so that it is reachable from not a variety of classes, but a variety of incomes that 50, 80, 100 years ago would not have been reachable.
Right. Yeah, well, for sure.
To that point, I think that's another reason that it's important that lodges are able to create a whatever way they want to go, where people can make monthly or quarterly contributions instead of once a year. But if you say you wanted your dues to be $400, writing a check for $400 one time a year is not as easy for some people as it is automatically sending $33.33 to the lodge every month. And the proof in the pudding is like look at your satellite bill or anything like that. I mean, if you have Dish or something, it's a couple $1,000s a year, but no one looks at it like that. They don't. If you ask them to write $2,000 check once a year, nobody would have Dish, right? But since it's where you just make a monthly contribution and it's automatic, I don't even see it go, right? Then people can.
That's the latest thing.
That. Yes. It is the latest thing. However, when we talk about dues on Facebook and people say, well, we have all these monthly things now, it's not as feasible to pay higher dues when we already have all these monthly subscriptions. Well, then we need to jump on that bandwagon and we need to make our dues monthly subscriptions as well.
Right.
I also wanted to point out, I really liked the idea in this the podcast or whatever it was that you and I watched, Dennis, with the lodges. They have higher dues, but they're also very influential in their communities. I feel like it's important to point out, though, they're not service organizations. They're contributing to the community. And I think the difference is, and the mentality we should have if we were ever ideally in a situation like that, it's like it says in the Bible, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. We are helping out, but we're not doing it for publicity or anything like that. We're helping out because that's what influential people in the community do.
They have a vested interest.
They have a vested interest. I want my community to be a beautiful, safe, and enjoyable place for everybody that lives here. And so whatever I can do, however we can pull our resources together as a lodge and direct the community down that path, that's what we're doing. We're not doing it for clout. Dare I say, yes, servant leaders. We should be doing it for the community, not so that when someone says, "What do you guys do?" we can say, "Well, look at everything that we've done. Look at the park. Look at the police station. Look at the new cruisers they got. Yada yada yada." It's not about that. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I really like where the conversation went, and I definitely agree. We are not a service organization. However, I also feel that we as an organization should be, okay, let me put it this way. We're not a service organization, but as an organization, we should be of service to our community.
Right. Well, or at least able to. The thing that the thing that I go back to is there's a reason why back in the day my great great grandfather could walk into a bank of his choosing in his town and get a loan for any amount of money that he wanted on his signature alone, because he was held in extreme regard, because he was one of those people that established the town. A great 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 grandfather, not my great great grandfather. Well, he was the son of, but anyways.
If you're talking about multiple banks, I assume you're not talking about Goliath.
Wait, we have three.
Oh wow,
we have three. There's a lot of money in Goliath. I'm telling you, those banks do well with just 2,000 people. But the reality is that back in the day, in those generations past, which is the generations that our parents and grandparents looked up to, and admired and held in reverence, was those people always had the best of intentions for their community. They were always working for the betterment of all and not just themselves. And so they were trusted. They were trusted because of their seriousness of the craft and their seriousness in being there for the community when it was necessary. I mean, that's back then. All the churches and the schools started out of the lodges. It just happened. That's just the way it was. And today, while we don't have that need anymore because the government has taken over, that kind of thing for us nowadays, as well as with things like Social Security and insurance and all that is done on a different level than what the lodge was needed for back then. But we can still be relevant today, just by getting back to this thing called Freemasonry and working on our internal, and then we will be a bigger impact to the external.
I agree.
And let me pose a quick question here. If somebody comes and if you want to be able to give a good answer to the question, well, what do you do at your lodge? Then I'd suggest asking yourself that question and being really honest. Is the answer nothing? Do we just have a business meeting once a month?
Ooh, that's a tough
dinner. One. Yeah, or do we actually give a man the tools to make himself better? I think that was something David Rogers said yesterday.
Yes.
Or something close to it. We can't, as a group, we can't make you better, but we can give you the tools and hopefully give you the mentorship if we're doing our job as a lodge. And I don't think every lodge can say that.
Yeah. Yes, and that can be in all aspects too, not just in the lodge setting. I mean, I dabble in rental properties and stuff. I can be a mentor to a young guy that's starting out his first venture in real estate. I mean, there's been brothers that have asked, and I can be that mentor to them, and everyone can do that in their way. And with you and all the creations that you guys do, the most beautiful artwork I've seen in different awards and such. And man, that is artwork. And if you got guys that need help figuring out how to work a program, or which is the best machine to buy, or how did you start in your business, you have that knowledge for him. Same way with Justin and the stuff that he brings to physics. I mean, we all have those different tidbits that we can personally mentor people outside of Freemasonry as well. So not only do we have these beautiful tools within Freemasonry, but we also have these tools that we all have in our regular vocations that we could be a little more supportive with people, um, to help them to succeed in life, to support their families and their communities.
Well, I also firmly believe that we should do that. If we if we're in a position to elevate a brother, we, be it through training or just opportunities or anything like that, we absolutely should. And here's why. And it's not favoritism. It's the fact that, one, he'll be able to better provide for his family and worry less about that. And when you have that behind you, you can work on developing yourself more. If I don't have to worry about making ends meet as much, I can spend more time focusing on developing myself. But it also gives me the income opportunity down the road where I can invest more in my lodge and in my community and outreach and help people and things like that. The better off you. People say money isn't everything, right? And I agree, it's not everything, but it sure helps, right? As a successful person, I'm in a better position to help other people out than unsuccessful. What I have to worry about, if you can't, it's like Maslow's hierarchy. You have certain needs that have to be met before you can do other things. And if I'm still focusing on, I got to be sure I can provide shelter and food and things like that for myself and my family, I can't focus necessarily on things outside of those needs as much. But once they're met, and this is science, the hierarchy is science. Once these needs are met, then I can start looking out and seeing things that I could
You can
contribute
look,
to.
you can see the bigger picture a lot easier when you're not in the heat of the smaller picture.
Yes, exactly.
When you're able to step away from the micro, you can actually focus on the macro.
Yep.
And that's important. And it's important to note. No, that is not what we are here for, but it is a benefit of having that brotherhood, because I also trust my brothers to do good with the things that I offer them. I'm not going to tell somebody how to be a landlord if I think they're going to be a slumlord. I'm just not going to do it. So I know that brother's heart when I talk to him, and I know that he's in it for the right reasons. Whereas, somebody off the street, I'm not so excited to tell well, I don't want to use him as a reference. He's running for president. I don't want to tell somebody like that about, real estate and things like that, because I don't know that it would always be in the same way that I would carry myself. And God bless them. There's a lot of opportunity made with people like that, but that's just not who I'm going to mentor. And I would much rather mentor somebody in our fraternity that I think would do things to provide, good housing for people who need that.
Yeah.
Somewhere nice to live.
All the more reason to slow the process down and be sure that the best people are the ones that end up in your lodge. Because
that
they're
makes
the ones.
my heart smile every time you say it. Thank you.
That was for you, Cody.
Thank you.
Very good.
That's for all of us, because that's the reality. That's why we're supposed to have this rigorous process, is to make sure people aren't coming in with ill motives. It's not to try to deter them from becoming a Mason. It's just trying to make sure that they're not coming in for the wrong motives.
Yeah.
We don't want people coming in with mercenary reasons.
Well, I think that also, as you say, it's not to deter, but I think it also is. If you have someone that's just wanting to come because they have a casual interest, you want to deter that. You don't necessarily want them to. You don't want window shoppers coming to the fraternity.
Well, wait until they're serious.
Yeah.
Wait until they're ready.
Yeah. Very good. Anyone else have any final thoughts?
Those weren't final thoughts.
I opened final thoughts, and Brother Weber started, and we started a conversation. I'm happy with that. Does he?
Okay,
All right,
so
let's open it now for final
anybody
thoughts. That
So, are we open for final thoughts now that Justin has given his?
30 minutes later. Now that I give him mine, okay.
Yes. Come on, y'all don't make me look bad. Don't leave me hanging here, guys. Y'all got to say something.
I did my bit.
You did. Thank you.
Daniel, I'll see you.
It's hard to find the mute button sometimes, Dennis. You have to give us a minute to think, you know?
There you go.
It's almost 11 o'clock at night here. I just add, you know, I think when you, Justin, I want to give you props there, right? We aren't necessarily a service organization. We are an organization that can provide service, but that's not our mission statement, right?
No.
Yes.
That's not our stated goal. And it's important to remember that, right? We are a fraternal organization first and foremost, and that service that's going to be done is an auxiliary to that. We need to remember who we should be giving that service to, and you know, we need to make sure our members are happy with what they're getting out of the organization, because then inherently they're going to talk to other people and invite people who are similarly minded and say, "Hey, come join this because this is what I'm getting out of it. I'm so happy. You have to be part of this too."
Yeah, I love that. And you brought up something that's important, because people that join are going to bring in other like-minded people. And this is part of the reasoning when I said if a lodge is in a position that could be of service to the community, that it's also not pointing at everything it does. Because if someone asks, "What do you do?" and say, "Well, we bought this for the police station. That new fire truck got maintained because of us." If you just point at all the things you do in the community as your reasoning for what you do, people think literally that's what you do, and that's why they want to join. They don't understand that you're actually this initiatic rite of passage experience, because you're pointing, and that's basically the trap we fall in when we try to pitch ourselves when we try to advertise ourselves with our community service, because the people that you do attract.
We've had those people come on and beg us for money with Masonic improvement many times, because they think that that's what we do.
Yeah, they want us to. Yeah, you're right. And so we say we don't want the right hand to know what the left is doing, but it's also because we don't want to give the wrong impression. It's the same thing. Like we said, you know, we want to lift each other up and help each other out. But that's not what we're advertising, because we don't give people the wrong impression. We don't want people to join thinking this is going to be like a giant boost to their career, or they're going to find that magical job or something like that, because that's not what we do either.
Yeah, that's what the clandestine lodges promise.
Yeah. Which, by the way, charge way more than the regular lodges.
I know. So, oh my God.
We should tell you if they get away with it.
$10,000.
Yeah, if they can get away with it, we're really even missing an opportunity. But joking aside, as always, Brad's not here now, but the internal and the external, that was amazing. That was an amazing time. Everyone that gave a speech was fantastic, and it was so great seeing so many brothers there. And I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm especially right now. I'm looking forward to January in our dinner event. That's going to be fantastic. And we need more things like this, because it always leave, like Daniel said, always feel energized. But we need more, because I need to bounce from event to event to stay pumped up all the time. But that was really good. And as also was pointed out, I mean, we do have the dinner coming up. If you want, that's going to be I think we agreed it's going to be inner circle only. Is that right, Dennis? Is that what we're looking at?
It's going to be inner circle, as well as if vouched for.
Okay.
But if you want to have an opportunity to be a part of the ceremonies, then that's going to be inner circle only.
Yeah.
So just so that you brothers know that show up to the dinner, that's where we're going to be pulling for our all the people that are going to give toasts at the dinner. It's going to be all of our inner circle members. Our inner circle members they always get first discussion rights. So when we go to have our discussion, if one of our inner circle members stands up and one of our vouched for people stand up, that inner circle member is going to get the first talk, and the vouched for person is going to have to wait their turn, because y'all are the inner circle, and we're doing this to celebrate y'all, and we're doing this to give you the experience that you deserve in Freemasonry. And go ahead.
By the same token, we are going to have limited number of seats.
Yes,
and inner circle has priority.
Yes,
everything fills after you guys. So if you want to be sure, I guess the point is, if you want to be sure that you have a seat and that you want to be there, for one, I mean, y'all are inner circle, y'all. It's
well,
a done deal,
and
but
a lot of people don't know what inner circle means. So our inner circle members here are all our paid subscribers and supporters of Masonic improvement.
Yep.
And this is our inner circle right here. These are the people that we care about first and foremost, as far as this show is concerned. And so, y'all are it.
Yeah, they support us, we support them. Exactly.
That's right.
And I'll share a link here and get it. So anyone down the road that's watching, either right now or down the road, if you'd like to learn more about the inner circle, I'll post the link right now. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the inner circle, like Dennis said. It's like, we don't get a lot for it, but it does help us to pay for the show, right? And so it's just your way of saying, hey, we really appreciate what you're doing. It also gets you access to any of the regular show videos that we release. There's always an inner circle version that's ad free, but it also gives you opportunities to come, not just in here and talk on the lives, but there have been times where we just like, hey, it's just going to be inner circle strictly. We're going to have a Zoom and have a conversation, and it never gets out to the general public. So there's
we ought
lots
to
of
do that on Wednesday. We ought to do that on Wednesday.
Okay, that'd be good.
The following Wednesday will be the discussion that we have with Zach and
Did you
Robert.
really forget his name?
No, I'm just tired. Well, I spent all weekend with him. I was laughing. We were both laughing earlier today that it's kind of like you only take pictures with your wife when you're during birthdays and anniversaries,
Mm-hmm.
and because Park and I don't get pictures together anymore. It's always we never think about it because we're hanging out so much nowadays that we just don't think about it. And so I got pictures with everyone else this weekend, and I never did get a picture with Park. So I got to start making a point to get a picture with him.
It's funny you say that, because I almost didn't get a picture with you, because I went around taking pictures with everybody, and then we're about to leave. It's like, oh crap, I forgot to take one with Dennis. So because we're doing this so often. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
And you still didn't share it with me like I asked.
Oh crap, you're upset now.
Facebook.
Oh, you got it?
No, I Facebook already.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah.
My favorite pic was the one that Brad took when it was all us four standing up in the dining room.
My goofy
that was
head
my
got
favorite, except for you acting millennial on us. The rest of us were cool. I mean, that was a cool pic.
Yeah, that was classic Justin. I'm like, ooh.
I think that was classic. Don't see the value in nothing.
Okay.
Go away, kid. You bother.
All right.
Okay, so now that you've given your final thoughts twice, actually 3 times, because you gave them and then you announced them. You said,
who's counting, man?
You claim you announced them, and then you chimed in on another discussion, and then you decided to go into your own little rant again. So now it's my turn, since nobody else is going to speak. I'm super stoked that we had the outcome that we did this weekend. I'm always happy to see brothers that we know and love, and we had a couple guys show up that said that they were there specifically to see us speak, because they had heard that we did a good job in the past and wanted to see us speak, and I thought that was awesome. I'm still not used to hearing stuff like that. And, that's humbling. that's humbling. And these are people that I wouldn't be able to recognize. You're right, Cody. It is good for the ego. It keeps me going. But these are people I wouldn't normally recognize, and now I get to. I know this person now. I know this brother now, and that's only because of traveling. God, you guys, y'all need to stop. I'm trying to give closing discussions here. I didn't have to say that earlier. I didn't have to acknowledge you. So, but that's the cool thing, is that we travel and we get to meet people that that we would only meet online or through Facebook or what have you. I'm just going to look away because these guys just won't stop. This is what the inner circle gets you. It gets you the opportunity to shut Dennis up. So this weekend, I got to meet a lot of brothers that I wouldn't normally met. We talk all the time, and it was beautiful that Justin acknowledged um, the fact that I truly believe that it takes travel time and book time to enhance your journey as a Mason. And I'm not going to look anymore. That's it. It takes travel time and book time to enhance your journey as a Mason. I truly believe that. But I do believe that it also takes FaceTime. And while we get a lot of FaceTime here on Masonic Improvement, nothing beats having that one-on-one FaceTime in person. And I truly feel blessed and honored to be given opportunities to do things like this and to meet brothers around the state and around the country that that I wouldn't otherwise know. We know people. We're talking about uh, having brothers from all walks of life, with different vocations and things of that nature, and supporting each other as one of the things that we ought to do, and we absolutely ought to. It's called brotherly love and affection. We should be our charity should be to each other as brothers. I would never turn away my blood relatives. I would never turn away my brother. And so if somebody comes to me with something that I can help with, I'm going to help. But what's even more cool is that I've traveled so much and met so many of you out there that if I can't help, I say I can always tell them I know a guy, because I do. I know a guy. And it doesn't matter what area you're talking about. I guarantee you I know a guy. I learned years ago about this. There was this talk that was given at some point by somebody called the 6 points of connection. Anyone can get to anyone else through 6 points of connection, of knowing different people to get to somebody that you want to reach out to. Well, I think that that number exponentially shrinks in Freemasonry when you travel and when you get to know your brothers, because you know these people firsthand, and everybody's willing to help each other. That's the beauty. That's the beauty in brotherly love and affection, is that everybody's willing to help each other, because we know our hearts are in it for the right reasons. We're not in it to hurt each other. We're in it to help each other. And even though we've had some rocky roads in the past, and we've shared different ideas with other people in our fraternity, I really don't believe that those people are bad people in their heart. Now, have some lost their way? It's very possible, and I think that I've witnessed, but not the vast majority. I think the vast majority are all good-hearted people trying to do the best that they can with the understanding of things that they have today, just like I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I was a different person back then and lived a different life back then. But that was because I only lived it based off of what I knew at that time. We all come to this fraternity with our own experiences and understandings in life, and through our brotherhood and the thing that we call rhetoric in Freemasonry, we're able to discuss and contemplate and learn new ways and make new decisions based on new information that we find. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Freemasonry. And this weekend, I was able to make some new decisions based off new information that Robert Park shared with us. And not that Justin really had anything for me, but I did learn something from Cody and Dave and even Brad, the newest Mason, in the ranks. Justin, I just really didn't.
I didn't want to overwhelm you, Dennis.
I knew every one of those rites of passage. In fact, I named a couple more that he didn't name, and so he's just Justin. But everybody else, no, it was a great weekend, and it served its purpose, and now we need another one, and we need another one. I think if we were to bring back lectures, we could try to formulate more of these around the state to the betterment of our fraternity. And I'm actually going to work on that. I'm going to work on that idea. I'm going to try to get that idea out there and to the general population of our fraternity, and hopefully it'll grow legs and run throughout our fraternity, and hopefully our Grand Lodge at some point will decide to adopt that. I think I would like to make that resolution. Maybe not this year because
yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, maybe not this year because I hadn't talked about it enough already yet. So I think probably next year I would like to work on that. I'll talk to Right Worshipful Rumsey and see what he's thinking about that on that lines. Plead my case. And then we discussed the value of dues and the devalue that we've dealt with. This is all stuff that we've talked about a lot in the past. And I realize that, but it can't be said enough that we devalue ourselves. And the reason why we devalue ourselves is because we don't always find the value that we expect. But at the same time, we're the ones that have to create that value. It's up to you and me to create that value within our lodges so that it creates the excitement to where other people will want to show back up. It's up to us. We can't blame anybody else. We can't put blame on the Grand Lodge. It's definitely not their fault. If anything, it was always our fault. And anything that ripples in through Grand Lodge originated in our lodges. Any Grand Master that we're not happy with originated in our lodges. And it's ultimately our fault, and we need to take responsibility. So just as we want to take our responsibility back, we need to carry that responsibility with the heavy weight that it holds. And we need to do the best that we can with it. We have new information today, so we can make new decisions. And I encourage you all to do that. Don't be afraid to take chances in your lodge. If you need support, then you need to reach out to us. Every one of these Inner Circle members right here will be happy to give you support. The past masters that we have in our lodges should be the biggest cheerleaders and the supporters of our fraternity. We've seemed to have forgotten that in many cases. However, I can tell you that these brothers care enough that they're gonna try to figure out a way to support you instead of shoot you down. So with that being said, I hope you subscribe. I hope you join our Inner Circle, because I definitely want to make sure you have a seat at our Inner Circle dinner and festive board in Waco. There's lots of stops along the way that are going to be happening. We've got candidate forums that are coming up that are going to be online.
Yep.
So you need to pay attention and you need to watch it. Show that there's a reason for them being online. Make sure that they see the likes and they see that you showed up for that online forum so that they do it again next year. The biggest loss that we have is the loss of transparency in our lodges. And it's not transparency to the outer world that we need to worry about. It's transparency to the brethren that we need to worry about.
Exactly.
Because only we can hold each other accountable. We can't blame anybody else for anything, and nobody else can fix it for us. So with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you for spending this evening with me, and keep it between the points.
See y'all next time.